In this video, we're going to be sharing 10 podcasts which are similar to the Serial podcast. If you haven't watched Serial, it's a weekly podcast which, over the course of a number of weeks, covers several different stories. The first season is called The Alibi. It's about a Baltimore teenager named Hae-Min Lee. In 1999, she was a popular high school senior. She disappears after school one day. 6 weeks later, detectives arrest her classmate and ex-boyfriend, Adnan Syed, for her murder. He says he's innocent, though he can't exactly remember what he was doing on that January afternoon. But someone can. A classmate at Woodlawn High School says she knows where Adnan is, and the trouble is, she's nowhere to be found. That was one that really keeps you on the edge of your seat. Season 2 of Serial is actually about the Bo Bergdahl case. Bo Bergdahl is the soldier who walked off his base in Afghanistan. And though it's not quite true crime, in the second season, it definitely keeps you hooked. It basically covers what happened, why did he walk off, where did he go, how did he get captured, is he a traitor, is he crazy, is he a guy who went AWOL, what's the whole story with that, and how should he be disciplined by the military, and what was kind of the whole event with him coming home and how the story took off and everything else. These are both great podcasts. They really keep you hooked from beginning to end, and throughout, not only each week, but even throughout each episode, you go back and forth from liking the guy, hating the guy, thinking he's guilty, thinking he's innocent, etc. But it definitely, prior to I wasn't familiar with the story in season 1. However, season 2, Bo Bergdahl, I really didn't know very much about the story. I thought he was a traitor who walked off the base, and it turns out there's a lot more to the story, and the guy's had kind of an interesting life. So it's definitely an interesting story to listen to. But the point of this video is we're going to be telling you guys about 10 podcasts that you may enjoy if you enjoyed the podcast Serial. So let's get into it. Okay, so in the last video we made, we touched on 10 podcasts that you may enjoy if you enjoyed the podcast Serial, and in this week we're giving you 10 more. So if you haven't seen the first video, watch the first video. I'll link to it in the description box below, but let's pick up with 10 more podcasts similar to Serial you may enjoy. So this will be number 1, but we'll call it number 11 since we did 10 last week. It's called Reveal. It's produced by the Center for Investigative Reporting in PRX. Reveals injustice, power abuse, and crime. It's an easy, interesting listen and is produced with all the bells and whistles of Serial. Some of these podcasts that we recommend maybe don't have the production value of Serial, but are still great stories and still have great storytellers. But Reveal is another very, very well-produced one, and if you enjoyed Serial, you may enjoy Reveal. The number 2, or we could call number 12 podcast that you may enjoy if you enjoyed Serial, is a podcast called Detective. The first season features a retired detective and his stories from 23 years on the Colorado Springs Police Department's Homicide Division. We recommend listening to the Mighty Ike episode if you're not sure where to start. That's a great episode, but definitely check out Detective if you enjoyed Serial. You're sure to enjoy it. The third podcast that you may enjoy if you enjoyed the Serial podcast is Truth and Justice with Bob Ruff. Most recently, podcaster Bob Ruff looked into Hae-Min Lee's case after Serial brought so much attention to the murder. However, earlier episodes cover other aspects of the law and themes such as crime and justice. So if you have watched Serial Season 1, the story of Adnan Syed and Hae-Min Lee, and were hooked by that story, you may be interested in listening to this episode of Truth and Justice with Bob Ruff. And also for those of you guys who aren't aware, Adnan Syed actually was ordered a new trial recently. So if you visit the Serial website, they link to the story, but you can definitely check that out. He was issued a new trial, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. If you ended season 1 of Serial, like, I can't believe this guy is still in jail, he will have a new trial coming up. So we'll see what happens with that. The next and number 4 podcast that you may enjoy if you enjoyed the podcast Serial is called The Mind of a Murderer. Each of the 6 episodes is narrated by a criminal psychologist and trial consultant, Dr. Michelle Ward. Ward actually talks face-to-face with 6 violent murderers, relying on her experience as a trial consultant to look into each killer's psyche and find out what actually drives people to kill. It's compelling to say the least, and if you enjoyed Serial, you may enjoy The Mind of a Murderer, so check it out. The next podcast, number 5, that you may enjoy if you also enjoyed Serial is called Made in Sweden. Crime was in their blood. Made in Sweden looks into the true story behind the novel The Father, which is about 3 brothers who grew up to become Sweden's most notorious criminals. Co-host Stefan Thunberg is their brother, which makes the series even more interesting. This is definitely one that you may want to check out if you enjoyed Serial. The number 6 podcast that you may want to check out if you enjoyed Serial is called Crime Feed. Crime Feed covers the most shocking and true crime stories exclusively. Unlike in a lot of other true crime podcasts, most of the content is current. However, the program will occasionally look into old cold cases. Crime Feed more or less covers only information that's been circulated in the news and doesn't dive deeply into the crimes or editorialize them in a way that podcasts like Serial and Mind of a Murderer do. But it's still definitely worth a listen, and if you enjoyed Serial, you may enjoy Crime Feed, our number 6 recommendation for podcasts similar to Serial. The number 7 podcast that you may enjoy if you enjoyed Serial is a podcast called True Detective, The Truth Squad. If you're a super fan of True Detective on TV, you definitely need to know about this series. Weekly shows analyze all of the clues and plot developments on the show and basically help feed your True Detective addiction between TV episodes. I was really excited when True Detective came out on, was it HBO, I think it was. However, I didn't really wind up getting into it that much, and this podcast wasn't one of my favorite ones, but it is interesting. If you do enjoy the show True Detective, you'll definitely enjoy this podcast as well. So feel free to check it out. Number 7, True Detective, The Truth Squad. The next and number 8 podcast that we recommend if you enjoyed Serial is called Thinking Sideways. Thinking Sideways investigates things we simply don't have the answer to, such as missing people, reports, suspicious deaths, or old mysteries that were just never solved. And they try to reach a conclusion. So if you enjoyed Serial, you may enjoy our number 8 pick, which is called Thinking Sideways. The number 9 podcast that you may enjoy if you enjoyed the podcast Serial is a podcast called Casefile. Casefile is an Australian podcast that digs into a different case during each hour-long episode. So unlike Serial, which covers the same story over the course of like 8 or 10 or 12 episodes, this covers an entire case within an episode. Murders and violent crimes are the most covered topics, and if you enjoyed Serial, you may enjoy our number 9 pick, which is called Casefile. And lastly, number 10 in our video covering 10 similar podcasts to Serial, which you may enjoy if you enjoyed the podcast Serial, is 48 Hours. The award-winning team at CBS's 48 Hours is behind this in-depth podcast covering tricky criminal cases and human drama. Production quality is stellar because it's brought to you by CBS, and the team always selects gripping stories. If you like 48-hour mysteries or Dateline mysteries, you're sure to love this podcast. This is also one of my favorite ones behind Serial. So that is our last and our number 10 pick of top 10 podcasts like Serial that you may enjoy if you like Serial. Now, again, we made a video last week with another 10 podcast that you may enjoy if you enjoyed Serial, so I'll link to that in the description box below. But if you enjoyed Serial and you're hankering for a new mystery to dive into or taking a road trip and looking for something to listen to, these 20 suggestions we gave you are ones you'll probably most definitely enjoy. So if you have any questions, comments, want to comment on your favorite podcast or recommend others, leave a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, please click that subscribe button to the bottom left of the video. Thanks for watching.